The judge overseeing some of the trials, of course, in Georgia with the co-defendants, including Kenneth Chesebro, was forced to issue a rather scathing ruling against Mr. Chesebro this past Friday after Chesebro's legal team tried to file a motion to get the entire case against him dismissed, alleging that the prosecutor that's been assigned to that case, not Fani Willis, but she picked another guy, a man by the name of Nathan Wade. Chesebro's lawyers argued in court that Mr. Wade actually committed a misdemeanor because he failed to turn in his paperwork to be the prosecutor on time. And they said that under Georgia law, this means the whole damn case got to be thrown out, even though Mr. Wade not turning in his paperwork on time, which he did end up turning it in, has no bearing on the charges against Mr. Chesebro. And for the record, that is actually one thing that the judge pointed out in the ruling where he basically smacked down Chesebro and his lawyers. But let me read you this. This is what the lawyers filed in court, trying to get Mr. Wade, his incompetence, to get the case thrown out. Nathan Wade, who has and continues to serve as lead counsel in this case, including during the presentment of the case to the criminal grand jury and at the time the underlying indictment was returned, was not an authorized public officer by Georgia law. It then accuses him of committing a misdemeanor by presenting the case to a grand jury and obtaining an indictment, quote, without first taking and filing the appropriate oaths. Accordingly, the indictment in this case must be dismissed. So the judge first reminded Chesebro that, hey, bud, if we're going to be talking about people who didn't fill out their paperwork and turn it in on time, your team actually did that too. So if you're going to say that I have to apply that law, the judge says, then I have to actually apply it to you guys. So if you're saying he did a misdemeanor, then guess what? So did you, you idiots. The judge went further. All right. Judge McAfee said that the motion, quote, failed to establish that this code, the part of Georgia law, section is even relevant to Special ADA Wade. The Georgia Code states the requirements in question do not apply to those tasked to work on specific cases rather than being sworn in on general assignment, but McAfee wrote, Chesebro's motion noted this exception, quote, then blithely moved on without adequately explaining why it should not apply. So the judge is like, okay, in your motion, you point out that there are exceptions to this rule, and clearly Wade fits with that exception. But then you didn't explain why that exception in this particular case shouldn't apply. So you mentioned that technically what you're saying is not true, and then you just left it. The court has not been provided nor located any authority to support this claim. And if this parrot of a motion is somehow not yet dead, the defendant has failed to establish how Special ADA Wade's actions resulted in prejudice, i.e., how his assignment single-handedly changed any specific actions taken during the investigation or resulted in the true bill of indictment. Nor has defendant established a constitutional violation or structural defect in the grand jury process sufficient to justify outright dismissal. The motion is denied. This was pretty much the last attempt that Chesebro and his legal team had to get this case dismissed before it heads to trial in about a week or so. So as of right now, Chesebro has not taken the plea deal that has allegedly been offered him by Fani Willis. His legal team has failed in pretty much every motion they filed. He's made an ass of him out of himself in front of the court, and he still insists that he is going to go to trial when that plea deal was dangling right in front of him for at least a week, and it may not be there anymore. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.